Thursday was one of the most frustrating days that I can remember at the old ball yard, and much of my frustration was centered around Elly De La Cruz.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name is Jeff Carr, and we love the Cincinnati Reds despite ourselves. We love baseball. We love talking about the Reds. We love talking about baseball. We've been doing it in podcast form for about 14 seasons combined. Now, on today's show, we're going to ask the question, what do the Reds need to do about this Elly De La Cruz problem? We're going to tell you what we think. We're also going to be talking a little bit about the lineup coming up here in a little bit, because despite how badly things went at the ballpark yesterday, the lineup actually showed signs of life and showed signs of life over the course of this series against a really good pitching staff. We're going to get into that just a little bit. And the Reds are on to Baltimore. They have hit the road. They will be taking on an Orioles team that's reeling a little bit, and the Reds are actually in a good situation to go down there and take some games and kind of right the ship a little bit. But where we're going to start, Jeff, is with this Elly De La Cruz problem, this Elly De La Cruz situation. I'm just going to go right out there and say, no, we're not saying he needs to be sent down. No, we're not saying that he needs to be benched. The Reds can't afford to not have him in the lineup. But you know what they can afford to do, Jeff Carr? You know what they can afford to do? They can afford to make him the designated hitter. They can afford to make him the DH and tell him that he's going to do some infield practice. And until such time that he can put his 6'5" frame in front of the baseball and field it, he can just keep being the DH, because we need somebody playing shortstop that can field a ground ball.
Yeah, there were, boy, the roller coaster of emotions. And quite frankly, we're recording this some hours after the game has ended, and there's a very good reason for that, because the roller coaster that I went on of emotional trauma at Great American Ballpark on Thursday afternoon was quite extensive. And quite frankly, the catalyst of much of that roller coaster was Elly De La Cruz, and it started early on. And no, you don't expect him to make every play, but I'm not going to make excuses when it's an easy play to make. It's a bouncing ball. He's a big guy. Knock it down. And he's got the arm of the century, right? He's got the arm that everybody covets. He has a 70 grade arm. And they don't really hand out 80 grades anymore, but if they could, there's been a lot of scouts that have said we would have given him an 80 grade arm. He can throw the ball. Knock the ball down, throw the guy out at first. There was a situation where you had a runner on second base, bouncing ball barreling toward Elly, and it was a tough bouncer, but the kind of bouncer you can knock down, and that's really the play. He tries to scoop it, and what happens when he scoops it? It goes right on into left field, because that's exactly what's always going to happen when you play it the way he played it and you forego the fundamentals. And call it egotistical, call it lackadaisical, call it whatever you want. It needs to be fixed. And I can't wrap my mind around why we're still talking about this every single day. This graphic that I created of Terry Francona looking at 0 days without an incident thing, we're just going to keep this up because it just keeps happening.
Yep. Listen, Jeff, I was promised accountability. I was promised that a new era of Reds accountability was underway with the hiring of Tito Francona. Mm-hmm. I am not seeing any accountability. There needs to be accountability. And I can't speak to what's being said to Elly behind the scenes, but I can speak to what's being put on the field. And the product on the field says that it's the definition of insanity. They're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Elly is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Where's the accountability? Where is it at?
And And I think it's interesting, and you brought up the point that some people like to make. You got to send him down so he can figure it out. That doesn't happen. You don't go down to AAA, fix things, come back, and they're fixed. You either fix it at the major league level or they stow you in AAA until they can stomach you figuring it out at a later date. Like that does you don't just fix things in AAA.
You can't take Elly's bat out of the lineup. You can't.
No, you can't take his bat out of the lineup.
You can't do it.
But the things that ail him are things that shouldn't ail a little leaguer. And this is a thing, like I cringe a bit whenever somebody compares their little league experience or their high school baseball experience to something that they need to do to fix an issue of a major leaguer. But when it comes to fundamentals like this, when it's literally just get yourself in front of a baseball, Tom Amansky is watching these highlights going, man, where's that VHS? I need to send that VHS to him. He apparently never watched it because that's not even something that a high school player has problems with. And I don't use that point very often. And I've been one that has vehemently defended different mistakes that Elly has made during his short tenure in the major leagues. But we're getting to the point where he needs to get rid of them because he is looked at as being a face of baseball, being one of those guys that you're going to market to a non-baseball fan or a casual baseball fan and say, look at this guy because this guy is how we sell this game. And if somebody watched that game on Thursday, they're wondering why they're being sold the Elly De La Cruz product.
And it was 2 games in a row. It was the same Olay stuff 2 games in a row. And did it cost the Reds both of those games? It contributed for sure. It 100% contributed for the Reds having a series they should have won that they did not. And there were a lot of other problems. There's plenty of blame to go around. But Elly set the tone day before yesterday, and Elly set the tone yesterday of sloppiness. And it's got to stop, Jeff. You know, beyond being promised accountability, Elly himself has looked into cameras and said, I want to be the best player in baseball. Mm-hmm. You can't be the best player in baseball if you can't field a ground ball. There's just no way that those two things go together. Something's got to be done.
If I can point to specific things that you did to cause your team to lose, not only are you not the best player in baseball, there's an argument that you're not the best player on your team. And
he's certainly not the best shortstop. He is certainly not the best shortstop on this team right now. Matt McLain is a better defensive shortstop. Santiago Espinal is a better defensive shortstop than Elly De La Cruz is right now. And if Elly De La Cruz is unwilling to rectify that, then he needs to stop playing shortstop. And if that's DH, if that's third base, if that's outfield, I don't care. But I cannot stomach watching him boot easy ground balls the rest of this season.
And that, for me, that's the hard part about this, right? Because usually when we have talks like this or when people bring up points like this, I'm like, okay, well, what's the end game? What are we looking at? What are we aiming at here? And I think we are talking ourselves into the idea of moving him. But now I'm not so sure about third base because at third base, you still get these types of plays where you still got to get in front of it. And then if you're in the outfield, you definitely got to have good fundamentals out there because we've seen what happens when players olay balls in the outfield. Doubles turn into triples, turn into inside the park home runs. And so there's certainly lots to be discussed with this, but I don't know that I have a concrete answer right now. And there's been a lot of people that are like, man, I would love to see his arm in the outfield. I would love to see his arm at third base, all this other stuff. I would not love to see the errors that he is making in those spots, although you do take him off of shortstop, which gets most of the action in the infield anyway. So that's where it just seems murky to me, the path forward.
You know, with Elly, a couple things that you just said there, moving him to the outfield, moving him to these other places, that's an off-season situation. You're not going to stick him in the outfield this year. You can't do it. You can't do that this year. But if you move him to DH and tell him you have to prove that you can go back to shortstop. because he can be. I listed the guys that are better defensively than him. That's right now. He can be a better shortstop defensively than Matt McLain. He can be a better shortstop defensively than Santiago Espinal, but he just hasn't put in the effort. He's not putting in the work, Jeff. And listen, when you want to talk about third base and the differences between, what he was able to do at shortstop, and you're right, they do get more opportunities. Let's look at his rookie year. He played in 69 games at the shortstop position his rookie year. Sorry, 66 games. He played at 32 games at third base his rookie year. 13 errors at short, 1 at third base. So in roughly double the games, he went 13 errors at short, 1 error at third base. I think third base reins him in a little bit.
It's possible. Yeah.
You scoot him around less. There's less territory for him to cover, easier for him to get in front of the ball, harder for him to play Olay when the ball's coming right at his face on the hot corner. Maybe there's something there.
It's kind of like a change of scenery within your own team. Like, change of scenery, you go and you see the game from the third base side. And they did that with Manny Machado and it's worked out pretty well. They've done that with Fernando Tatis, moving him to the outfield. That's worked out pretty well. Let's not talk about O'Neal Cruz. I think Elly De La Cruz is a lot better than O'Neal Cruz, and people are worried about O'Neal Cruz even in the outfield. But I think he's way better than O'Neal Cruz. But still, I think that there's a chance that later on this season, we're looking back at this episode and laughing because he's figured it out, because his ceiling is infinite. The problem is there's a block. And he just can't seem to get past that block right now. And so he has limited himself. And that is the only thing that is limiting him. Elly De La Cruz limits Elly De La Cruz. And whatever that block is, if Tito can find the key to unlock that block and get him past that point and start to unlock his potential, then we're cooking with gas. But right now, I don't know where you're finding that key. And that's the hard part with this equation. And that's why we're so frustrated talking about it, because we should be talking about how amazing Elly is, because Elly is amazing and electric and so much fun to watch. But it's games like Thursday and it's games like Wednesday that absolutely frustrate you, frustrate me, frustrate every Reds fan out there to no end. But you know what, Steve? You know what? All this complaining, all this annoyance, all this fury that we have.
What's going on around here? What is happening?
There was good news, though. There was good news in a game that stunk because the lineup rocked, and there were a few key breakthroughs that we will detail coming up next. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Plus, posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, multiple qualified candidates will be there for you to choose from. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to our everydayers out there. Shout out to Nick Couch. Actually got to meet him on the concourse there during this wonderful game. And look, I tell you, this is I sound so frustrated. This is me after like 7 hours of coming down from this game. Like I can't even tell you where I was mentally whenever I left the ballpark, but appreciate Nick. Hope I didn't seem too obtuse then. I would try not to be, but he was cool. But I know this, Steve, the lineup really had a good day. And as annoying as it sounds in a loss, they did. They found ways to score runs. There was a point, probably about the fifth inning, that I was like, this is over. Ain't nothing happening here. And Jake Fraley was just like, hold my beer, Jeff, because not only have you been besmirching me Yeah, I just used besmirched on a podcast. How about
Wow.
that?
Wow, they teach
But
some big words in Alabama, West Huntsville, don't they?
but I'm going to prove you wrong here. I'm going to help the Reds take the lead in a game that they had no business taking the lead in. And I'm going to hit it a grand slam style, absolute bomb from him. He's looked really good these last couple of days.
He's been having good at bats, you know, and we called into question how much more time to give him. Yeah. And we thought maybe he'd get another week to 2 weeks, but
we gave him at least 5 more minutes.
Yeah. Right. Yesterday was good. 3 for 5, 4 RBIs, that grand slam. He only struck out one time. Batting average coming up now up to 234. He's moving in the right direction. And it was really good to see a good game like that out of him. The power, that's really what's been lacking. The 275 batting average last year, that was an outlier. I didn't expect that from him this year, but I did expect the power to return. So this is a good sign. Good at bats. He's been hitting the ball hard. He's had extra base hits in multiple games in a row now. And he hit a big deep fly ball for a grand slam home run yesterday. So I like the direction he's going. I like the direction that a lot of this lineup is going. Matt McLain has had good in bats. He came in a day off already, I guess, whatever, but he did get into the game, drew a walk, was 0 for 1 with a walk in this extra inning affair. We've seen guys like Gavin Lux continue to just tell you and I to be quiet and let him cook. 2 for 4, scored a run. He's hitting 290 right now, Jeff. And he's moved out of the cleanup spot down to the 5 hole for, a couple games now. Austin Hayes.
They're looking like a pretty solid cleanup, man.
I saw it that he tied Anthony Santander's for home runs.
Anthony Santander's having a really rough start.
Yeah, really rough start. Yeah. But I mean, Austin Hayes is there, another home run, a couple RBIs in this game. Too early to really worry about average and the rest of his statistics. And then you've got Elly, who he may not be able to field, but he can get on base, brother. 2 for 4, scored a run, a walk in the game as well. He's hitting 243.
Yeah.
You can't take his bat out. When I said earlier, you can't take his bat out of the lineup, you cannot take his bat out of the lineup. Santiago Espinal didn't get a hit in this game, but he's had some pretty good at bats too. He looks like he's pretty close to putting a little streak together. I like what we've seen from him. And then TJ Friedl has been inconsistent, but 2 for 4, had an RBI in this game. He's hitting 268 in the leadoff spot. I kind of like the way his at-bats have looked too. This team, this lineup, it just feels like it's primed to do something if they could just stop shooting themselves in the foot. They're catching a Baltimore team that's a little bit reeling right now. Baltimore's not doing that well. This is an opportunity for the Reds to go on the road and take a series and try and right this ship a little bit. This team is 9-10 right now. And you and I talked about this while we were prepping. This team really should be 12-7. Yeah. They should have won on opening day. They should have won today, and they probably should have won yesterday. This team should be 12-7.
And that's the key to me, is that as much as they keep playing bad baseball, it's not sinking them. They're still floating. We're still kind of where we thought they'd be. They're not getting hot yet. They shouldn't be hot yet. It's too early in the season to be hot. But at the same time, you're seeing signs of life in key areas. The lineup showing the life that it is showing is very important. Different guys, like you mentioned, and there's definitely some telltale signs that you love to see. I mean, Matt McLain, the biggest question around him whenever he was coming up is he going to strike out too much and tank his own value at the plate? Is he going to walk enough? And he's really done a lot of walking here these last couple of games. His boots are made for walking. But also, the whole Jake Fraley breakout is so important because this outfield is a just horrid wreck if you can't get him going, because Austin Hayes, it appears, will be DHing more than we thought, because he has not played left field yet since he came off the IL. And I know that part of that is they're just making sure that everything is good with the hammy and they're not going to rush it back. But at the same time, I don't love that we have to keep rolling out, player soon to be named in one of the outfield spots. It feels like a bullpen day in an outfield spot, right? Like, I love Blake Dunn, and he scored a couple of runs in this off a couple of walks, but I just am starting to feel like he's whatever. He's fine. He's a 4th or 5th outfield type guy. There's a lot of those guys in this organization. So you got to have somebody step up. One of those fourth or fifth outfield guys got to step up. And Jake Fraley looks like he is the best of the bunch to do that. So until he really starts doing that, we're still going to feel really rough about this outfield. So I'm loving that he is breaking out here, and hopefully we just continue to see more of the same. I mean, it's so refreshing to know that even in a game that they did everything they could to lose, they still had a chance to win. Because it's been years past where they did everything to lose, so they lost by like 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that is something we have to worry about this year. The problem is whether you lose by 10 or 1, you still lose.
Right. It's still a loss, but they certainly never quit. And the lineup continues to show signs. We didn't talk at all about the fact that CES is now on the disabled list. Noelvi Marte back up and was in this game. 0 for 1, came in the game late. But, CES is down. Candelario is really the next guy. You got to wonder what they're going to do something about. And we continue to hear that Spencer Steer is ready to play defense. So the lineup could look a little bit different as they move forward. I don't know if we'll see Steer in the field in Baltimore, but it's getting close. And maybe, just maybe, they can continue to score runs in bunches like this and get this ship going. So speaking of Baltimore, the Reds are heading there. 3-game series opens today. And coming up, we are going to kind of break it down and let you know what you can expect as the Reds travel to the Orioles. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Make sure you have clicked the subscribe button so that you get all the great Reds content we got for you all along the way. You get us 5 days a week. You get Tim Daniel after every single game live. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can also listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We're pretty much on all of them. So make sure you click subscribe so you don't miss a single thing. All right, Jeff, the Reds are heading to Baltimore. They're catching a surprisingly not good right now Baltimore Orioles team.
Very cold Orioles team. Yeah.
The Reds have an opportunity to right the ship. And I mean, it's April. It's not must win. I'm not going to do that thing, but they need to go. They need to go win this series, Jeff. They need to go win this series.
Well, and it's interesting too, because the Reds, at least over the tenure of this current core, the Elly and the Matt McLain core and all that stuff with Tyler Stevenson and all that, they've been better on the road than at home, which has always been a bit of a thing that's kind of stuck in our craw because we like to watch them play well at home. So maybe going on the road can be that get right thing that they have. And they're facing, like we mentioned, a cold Orioles team. And really the coldest part of this team is their pitching staff. Like, they're going to face Cade Povich here on Friday. Cade Povich has been fine this season, 3.6 ERA. So you'll like that, but he's not really giving up a lot of hit or a lot of long hits and not really giving up a lot of hard hit balls. So that's going to be interesting to see how they deal with Cade Povich. He just sounds like a name. I told you before we hit record, just sounds like the name of a pitcher that no hits the Reds. So I'm throwing that out there as a reverse jinx, and I hope we score 10. And then you look at Saturday and Sunday, and they're TBD. But breaking down what the pitching staff has looked like for the Orioles this last couple of series, I think on Saturday we will see Tomoyuki Sagano, their new pitcher from Japan. He pitched really well so far this season. And then I think we'll also see Charlie Morton. I was wrong. I thought I was seeing Dean Kramer, but Dean Kramer pitched on Wednesday, so he's not going to be pitching in this series. But I think it'll be Charlie Morton, who has been around and has pitched a lot in his career, and he is pitching mighty horrible so far to start this season. But this lineup has made guys like that look good before, so we'll see. This is you got to go. You got to keep this momentum building. Like we just said a few minutes ago, it was good to see. Let's keep seeing.
You know, and with who the Reds are throwing, with Abbott, Greene, and Lodolo going in this series, Jeff, you know, there's a reasonable expectation for them to win all three of these games, right? Like
Yes.
those are the three guys you want going in this series. I'm looking for a nice bounce back start from Nick Lodolo after kind of having his first bad start of the year. I would like to see him go to Baltimore and kind of put it all together and have a really good start. We saw him have more strikeouts in his last start, but guys were just hitting the ball. He was leaving it out over the middle of the plate. They were having good contact. He was trying to strike them out versus what was happening earlier in the season where he was pitching to weak contact and letting the defense do the work. I would like to see a good bounce back from him in this game. And I like how it matches up. You know, Pagan looked human yesterday. Those things happen. It's going to happen. So, you know, I would like to see a lot of these guys bounce back. It was nice to see Taylor Rogers bounce back a little bit after getting kind of his self kicked around the day before. And I'm just hopeful this is a right the ship moment. As bad as things have been in April, they're not going to be 3-18. So there's some good things to look at. This is really an opportunity. They have an opportunity right now to begin to turn the page as we get closer and closer to May, when this team usually heats up. May is usually when this team heats up. The ball starts flying at Great American Ballpark a little bit better. Guys get warm. Jayron Candelario remembers that he can play baseball. Lots of things happen in May around here. So they just need to get back above 500 and stay above 500 and turn the corner into the summer.
And kind of looking ahead, I just looked at the weather app to see what the Sunday forecast is for Nick Lodolo. Looks like it's going to be cloudy and in the 70s. So hopefully a little bit of a better weather day for him to maybe get a better grip on the curveball. I don't know. I'm grasping at straws at that one because that's his bread and butter. If the curveball is working, watch out. And that is when we will see the dominant Nick Lodolo that we have come to expect. And then I just want to see more of the same from Hunter Greene. Just keep it going. Like we've reached a point in Hunter Greene's career where we're not saying, hey, you got to fix this or you got to add this or you got to tweak this. Just keep it going, dude. Like, I mean, I'd like to see some more ground balls and some less fly balls, but we're really, splitting hairs here when it comes to, what we're trying to say Hunter Greene needs to get better at. So I'm really excited about that bit. But more so, I feel like Camden Yards presents a good opportunity for this lineup to just keep it going. And that is where I really want to see. Like the defense has to get better. Elly De La Cruz has to get better and more consistent in the field. But it feels like everything else is starting to get going. And as annoying as it sounds, because there's a lot of folks that I heard at the ballpark on Thursday, and quite frankly, I was groaning to myself at some points, but there's a lot of folks that are just like, is this going to be more of the same from last year with this team? And I don't think so. I'm not 1000% sold on it, but I don't think so.
Well, and let's end on a happy note, Jeff, as we run out of time here. Baseball, Camden Yards, Elly De La Cruz, batting left-handed through the window.
Soft shell crab, something like that. Yeah.
Elly puts a ball through the window of the warehouse. Who says no?
I'm not saying no. I'm saying yes. And that's how we're going to wrap it up. Let's get out of here. Man, oh man, what a day. We've had too many of these episodes that are just like therapy sessions or something like that. Let's have some fun episodes coming up here on the Reds road trip. Baltimore's the first stop, but we're going to be with you every step of the way. We're going to be covering this Baltimore series on Monday. Ready to go for that one. And make sure you check out Tim Daniel every single night as he'll be going live at the end of every single game, recapping that game on the Reds postcast. And make sure you now go check out Locked On MLB Game Night because they got you covered for every single game of every single night. That's on the Locked On MLB channel. Check it out. But you can trust that we will be Locked On Reds every single day.
Another episode therapy in the books.
Golly, we got to stop doing this. The therapy bit, not the talking about the Reds bit.
I know,
We'll never
right?
stop talking about that.